meeting is holding in accordance with Section 237, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, comma. In addition, Section 256, subsection 2 of comma requires that we have at least 25 members represented in person or via proxies, representing 1/3 of the issued and fully paid up shares of the company being present for the meeting to be considered duly convened, subject to confirmation of the same by the registrars of the company to confirm that that is indeed the case, that we have a quorum. I would like also to kindly also note that this proceeding is being streamed live on Zoom as well as YouTube. Will the registrars kindly confirm that we indeed have a quorum?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, directors, regulatory officers present, and esteemed shareholders. My name is Sophie Paul, and I represent Coronation Registrars Limited, the registrars to Aradel Holdings PLC. The articles of the corporation prescribes the quorum for this meeting as shareholders physically present, not being less than one, and holding or representing by proxy not less than 1/10 of the issued capital of the corporation. We can confirm that at the start of this meeting, we have 173 shareholders attending physically, 67 shareholders represented by proxy, with a total of 108,284,340 shares, representing 49.95% of the issued share capital of the corporation. With this information, we hereby confirm that a quorum has been formed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I now have the pleasure of welcoming you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to our company's 29th Annual General Meeting, and hereby declare this meeting duly convened. My name is Ladi Jadesimi, Chairman of our company. I now call on the other directors of the company's secretary, the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, and the representatives of the regulatory bodies to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Adegbite Falade, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of our company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and our esteemed shareholders. My name is Adegbola Adeshina. I am the Chief Finance Officer of the company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Ede Osayande. I'm a non-executive director of your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, esteemed shareholders. My name is Austin Olorunsola. I'm a non-executive director of our company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Olugbenga Adetoro, and I'm a non-executive director representing African Capital Alliance.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Patricia Simon Hart, and I'm an independent non-executive director of Aradel Holdings.
We do have apologies for not being present today from two very, very key directors. One is Afolabi Oladele, representing African Capital Alliance, one of our major shareholders. And, oh, there he is. Okay, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished shareholders. My name is Afolabi Oladele, independent director of our company representing African Capital Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Another of our directors unavoidably absent today, Terry George, represents one of the main shareholders. Oh, there he is.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Thierry George, and I am a non-executive director representing Petroleum Ocean Limited. Thank you.
My name is Titio Mishure, and I'm the secretary to our company. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Titio Mishure, and I'm the secretary to our company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. The Audit Committee. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, esteemed shareholders. My name is Olufemi Akinsanya. I am the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, esteemed shareholders. My name is Abraham Udenani, representing Deloitte. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished shareholders. My name is Aradel Jojo, representing Deloitte, the external auditors.
I now call on the company secretary to read the notice convening this meeting.
Good morning once again, Mr. Chairman, esteemed shareholders. First, I wish to confirm that the notice convening the meeting was circulated to everyone entitled to notification in accordance with Section 2411 and Section 261 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Secondly, I confirm that the instruments appointing proxies have been properly executed and lodged with the registrars. Notice is hereby given that the 29th Annual General Meeting of the members of Aradel Holdings PLC, the company, will hold at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, the 5th of June, 2024, at the Jewel Aida Event Center at 105 Hakeem Dixon Road, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, to transact the following business. Ordinary business. To lay and the reports of the directors, auditors, and the audit committee thereon. To declare a dividend, to elect and re-elect directors, to reappoint external auditors, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors, to disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company, and to elect and re-elect members of the Statutory Audit Committee. Also today, we have special business made up of 12 ordinary resolutions and 4 special resolutions. As there are so many, I will crave the indulgence of the esteemed shareholders to take them as read, failing which I will read them individually. Do I have your indulgence? I'm sorry? Thank you very much. Extremely appreciated. With that having said, this notice was issued by order of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. The chairman's statement, as well as that of the managing director, CEO, are contained on pages 12 to 13 and 14 to 16, respectively, of the annual report and accounts. As the managing director will be making a very detailed presentation to members, and having circulated the annual report and accounts earlier to all shareholders, both digitally and hopefully in hard copy, may I crave your indulgence, therefore, that we take both statements as read. Thank you. I would like to formally lay before the meeting the company's audited and consolidated financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023, together with the reports of the directors, the auditors, and the audit committee thereon. I think we start with the auditor's report. The next item on the agenda is the report of the external auditors of the company's financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023. May I invite the representative of Deloitte and Touche to present their report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, please permit me to stand on existing protocols. And I would like to crave the indulgence of the shareholders to read certain paragraphs of our report. The report is found on pages 64 through 67 of the annual report. Independent auditors report to the shareholders of Aradel Holdings PLC. We have audited the consolidated and separate financial statements of Aradel Holding PLC and its shareholders, the company and group, set out on pages 68 to 116, which comprise the consolidated and separate statement of financial position as at 31st December 2023. The consolidated and separate statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, and consolidated and separate statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements, including material accounting policy information. In our opinion, the consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate financial position of Aradel Holdings PLC as at 31st December 2023, and its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with IFRS accounting standards as issued by the International Accounting Standards Board, the requirements of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and the Financial Reporting Act of Nigeria Amendment Act 2023. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the company and group in accordance with the requirements of ISBA Code and other independence requirements applicable to performing audits of financial statements in Nigeria. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibility in accordance with the ISBA Code and other ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of consolidated and separate financial statements in Nigeria. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Please turn with me to page 67. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the 5th schedule of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we expressly state that we have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. The group and company have kept proper books of accounts, so far as appears from our examination of those books. The group and company's financial position and its statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of account and return. Signed by Sheung Ejodame for Deloitte and Touche on the 22nd day of April 2024. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Deloitte and Touche. Thank you. Now, may I invite the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, Mr. Femi Akinsoya, to present his company's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report of the Audit Committee to the members of Aradel Holdings PLC. This is found on page 63 of the annual report. In accordance with the statutory requirement of provision of Section 404, subsection 4 of Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we, the members of the Audit Committee of Aradel Holdings PLC, having carried out our statutory functions under the Act, hereby confirm that the accounting and reporting policies of the group and company are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. In our opinion, 1, the accounting and reporting policies of Aradel Holdings PLC, as contained in the company's audited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2023, are in accordance with the relevant financial reporting framework and agreed ethical practices. 2, the scope and planning of the audit for the year ended 31st December 2023 were adequate. 3, the external auditors' findings on management's matters and management's responses thereto were satisfactory. 4, we have kept under review the effectiveness of the company's system of accounting and internal controls. In our opinion, the scope and planning of the audit for the year ended 31st December 2023, together with the consolidated and separate audited financial statements, were satisfactory. The external auditors had discharged their duties conscientiously and satisfactorily. We were satisfied with management's responses to the auditor's findings. Signed by myself, Olufemi Akinsoya, on the 28th of March 2024. Members of the Audit Committee during the year comprised myself as chairman, Edi Efekoha, shareholders representative, Afolabi Oladele, board representative, Bola Akinola, shareholder representative, and Ede Osanyede, board representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Akinsoya. The audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2023 commences from page 68 of the annual report and accounts. And the reports of the directors, the auditors, and the statutory audit committee have now all been presented to you. At this point, I'd like to invite our CEO, Mr. Adegbite Falade, to make a brief presentation about our company.
esteemed shareholders of Aradel Holdings PLC, the chairman and members of the board of directors, the chairman and members of the statutory audit committee, regulators here present, representatives of the registrar, coronation registrars, representatives of the external auditors, Deloitte and Touche, management and staff of Aradel Holdings PLC here present, members of the fourth realm of the estate, the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to address you at the 29th annual general meeting of our company, taking place here at the Jewel Aida Event Center at number 105, Akim Dixon Link Road, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, under the theme, Unleashing Growth. A theme that succinctly describes the phase we are in at this exciting journey of our corporate existence. It is not my intention to bore you with the elaborate details of how we have fared in the past financial year, as this has been well documented in the 2023 annual report and accounts that have been circulated to you prior to now. I will, however, touch on a few key points by way of context and provide perspectives on where we are at in 2024 and with a modest outlook on what to expect for the rest of the year and beyond. I'd like to start by speaking a bit to 2023 in context. In 2023, the global oil and gas industry sustained the rebound from the global economic fortunes or misfortunes that trailed COVID-19. Demand for fossil fuel held firm throughout the year, leading to relatively strong crude oil prices. Nigeria's average daily oil and condensate production in 2023 was about 1.47 million barrels per day, which is a 6.5% increase over the 1.38 million barrels per day average performance in 2022. Most of this increase came about as a result of improvement in the availability and fidelity of our crude export pipeline systems that enabled a number of wells that were shut in prior to be produced. The gains of unlocking this shut-in production were, however, counterbalanced by the combination of natural reservoir declines and an insipid level of investment in new drills, evidenced by a very low-level rig count, which as at November 2023 was 14, even though that seemed to be a modest increase on the December 2022 rig rate of 10. But for the sort of reservoirs and resources we have in our country, this is nonetheless a very low rig rate. In contrast, our company achieved an average daily production of 9,700 barrels per day in 2023, which is 147% higher than the 3.9 thousand barrel average performance in 2022. Most of this increase came about as a result of bringing on stream new wells that were drilled, and also as a consequence of significantly improved evacuation systems for our crude production. The year in question witnessed large scale up of our alternative crude evacuation via barging, improvement in availability of the Trans-Niger Pipeline TMP, and increased offtake from our modular refinery. All these enabled the unlocking of deferred production. The implication of our operational performance in 2023 is that our company grew 22 times more than the national industry grew in the same year in terms of average crude oil production. We also delivered a 50% increase in gas produced and sold, and a 75% increase in our refined volumes, totaling to 268 million liters, compared to what we achieved in 2022. In 2023, when we had this same AGM, I made a statement quoting from Mahatma Gandhi that the future depends on what we do in the present. Nothing could have been truer in contextualizing our company's performance for the year under review. The dogged pursuit of multiple initiatives, guided by the strategic leadership of our experienced board of directors, fueled by an extremely hardworking, passionate, and dedicated workforce, created mutually assuring outcomes that enabled the outstanding growth in the operational performance that I just cited. As multiple initiatives matured, we witnessed significant improvements in the levels of redundancies in our operations and logistics setup, and we considerably reduced deferments, improved facility uptime, and the delivery of the incremental growth as newly drilled wells were brought on stream, among others, were the outcomes that trade all of that. It's important to note that whilst operating at record level production numbers, on a BOE basis, we replaced every single barrel that we produced in 2023 by a factor greater than 1. And this provides a very calming assurance for sustainability going into the future. This operational performance, coupled with various financial and commercial initiatives, translated into the record financial performance that is showcased in the 2023 financial accounts relative to that of 2022 and the prior years. And this includes, among others, the following key highlights. Revenue growth of 120% in functional dollar basis, translating to 230% growth in naira terms. Operating profit growth of 100% in functional dollar basis, translating to 290% growth in naira terms. PBT growth of 72% in functional dollar basis, translating to 240% in naira terms. PAT growth of 97% in functional dollar basis, translating to 255% growth in naira. And an earning per share growth of 100% in functional dollar basis, translating to 255% in naira terms. Our company's share traded at 187 naira at the start of 2023. By the end of the year, it traded at 1,089 naira, representing a 480% growth as at December 31, 2023, and ended up as the stock with the highest growth rate on the NASD for the year 2023. It is our conviction that this growth is the market's response to the sterling operational and financial results which we have been publishing on a quarterly basis. It is therefore not surprising that the credibility of our theme for this AGM, Unleashing Growth, takes its root firmly from the datum of these results on one hand, and the fledgling and sustainable outlook for 2024 and beyond, which I'm going to speak to next. So let me talk about the context for the year 2024. Our first quarter 2024 unaudited accounts that have been published are the clearest lens to gauge what this year holds in stock. The account shows that at both operational and financial levels, our company is not letting off from where we ended in 2023. Crude oil production was 13,250 barrels per day for Q1 of 2024, up by 36% from the average for the full year 2023 numbers. Gas production was 36.8 million scf per day, also up by 36% from the average full year 2023 numbers. and refined volumes was 722,000 liters per day, slightly down by 1.6% from the average full year 2023 numbers. In comparison to the same period in 2023, our first quarter 2024 revenues are up by 90%, and profit before tax is up by 62%, both in functional USD terms. Our development program to grow both production and reserves in Ogbele, which is our flagship asset, continues apace with our ongoing drilling campaign. In 2023, we commenced a joint venture business partnership to deliver renewable energy solutions using solar energy. This is the first step of an ultimate Aradel renewables play that will be scaled up in subsequent years and will further diversify our energy solution offerings. Our plan and efforts to commence PMS production from our modular refinery are ongoing, and we project that we shall complete the commissioning of our PMS train sometimes towards the end of this year. In January 2024, our company, together with 4 other partners, in a consortium, incorporated a company called Renaissance Africa Energy Company, which successfully executed a sale and purchase agreement to acquire Shell International PLC's interest in the Shell Petroleum Development Company PLC SPDC. This milestone acquisition, when approved, will further strengthen Aradel's positioning in the Nigerian energy market. Last week, we remain a point of positive reference in the exciting journey of our company. In the course of last week, 2 very important milestone events took place that are worthy of note. First, on Wednesday, 29th of May, our company joined the elite rank of companies in Nigeria that attained the 1 trillion naira market capitalization, as we closed at 4,882 naira per share at the end of the day's trading. As if this was not enough, 2 days later, specifically on the 31st of May, Aradel achieved first oil production from Omerelu field upon successful re-entry and completion of the Omerelu 2 ST well. These 2 milestones, among others, provide clear indication of the solid foundation and the bright future that we see and that we are relentlessly pursuing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are aware of the numerous benefits that come with a company of our pedigree and track record being listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the NGX. This has been the desire of the rank and file of our shareholders and has been the focus of board and management over the years. We have consequently commenced necessary steps in preparation for the listing of our company by introduction on the NGX. We believe without a shadow of doubt that this is the right time to take this step, and we all must not delay in giving the right endorsements to actualize this dream. Once we receive your approvals to the resolutions that were included in the notice of the AGM, we shall be fully unleashed to progress this journey to list on the main board of the NGX, a transaction that we are committed to completing in this year 2024. Let me round up. In terms of our commitment to our host communities and in compliance with the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA of 2021, we have done the following. Number 1, we have established the Host Community Trust Fund for our flagship asset in Ogbele. We have also put in place the necessary organs of the trusts, which includes the Board of Trustees, the Management Committee, and the Advisory Committee. We have funded the trust fund with the mandatory contributions for the periods that were due in line with the PIA. A detailed needs assessment, which will translate into a 5-year community development plan, is presently ongoing. This development plan will cascade into various socio-economic interventions that will deliver sustainable benefits to our host communities. And last but not the least on that point, in addition, we continue to conduct our operations in ways that demonstrate our continuing duty of care to the environment. Please permit me to put on record my special appreciation to, first, our shareholders, on whose behalf we continue to pilot the affairs of our great company. I also like to appreciate the chairman and the entire board of directors for constantly keeping us on our toes and driving performance through strong corporate governance and strategic leadership. I'd like to thank my team of colleagues whose commitments to the cause have been top-notch in terms of passion, dedication, and professionalism. I'd like to thank our host communities who continue to show us tremendous goodwill and the solid support that has enabled us to thrive. I'd like to thank the regulators of our operations and the activities of our operations and activities for their unflinching faith and support, without which we would not have come this far. I also like to thank the universe of persons on whose goodwill we continue to thrive. This includes former staff of the company, business partners, suppliers, vendors, contractors, service providers, and many others. Your support has been highly invaluable. Most importantly, I'd like to say thanks to God, who has blessed us with good health, sound mind, and the clarity of thoughts to continue to do what we know how best to do. We are grateful for the positive feedback that has come from the rank and files of our shareholders, our long-standing shareholders, even before we came to the point of the AGM, appreciating the sustained growth and returns on their investments. It is heartwarming that the reach of the seed that was planted 32 years ago is positively affecting the fortunes of not only those who are directly connected, but of many others, and in the process improving the quality of living. This realization is further fueling our commitment to leave no stone unturned as we manage this business to be the pride of all. Aradel had always been a major player in Nigeria's energy industry. Our 32 years of existence is rich in terms of sector leadership and key practices that we have pioneered. This, for records, includes, among others, the pioneering of marginal oil field development, pioneering the concept of host community development trust fund, pioneering and eliminating routine flaring in our upstream operations, a feat that we achieved in 2012, being the pioneer third-party gas supplier to NLNG, a feat that we have sustained for the last 11 years, among others. In 2022, we successfully listed a Naira bond on the FFDQ, and at the start of this year, we were celebrated by the industry as at the Nigerian International Energy Summit, NIES, with the award of being the best integrated oil and gas company in Nigeria. Let me assure that the sustenance of this rich legacy of sector leadership remains our singular focus as we journey on into the distant future. We look forward to the next edition of the annual general meeting of shareholders in 2025, when we shall render the stewardship of our account to you again, as we continue to manage the affairs of this company safely and responsibly, and in a way that will sustain our credentials as the best performing energy investment in Africa. Until then, please continue to give us your support. See you at next year's AGM by God's grace. God bless Aradel Holdings PLC. God bless our nation, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, MD. Before we move on to the next item, which will be questions from shareholders, I'm sure you'll all join me in once again recognizing and applauding the founding fathers who clearly had laid a solid foundation upon which the current management is building. And I'm sure from what we heard, we can see that the current management appears to be capable of taking us to even greater heights. As we know, the chairman of the founding fathers was the late Dr. Aradel Adams, whose name has been immortalized in our name, Aradel. I would also like to, once again, for special mention, the first managing director, Dr. Olaiwola Fatono, because his stewardship was so exceptional, his vision was so rare that it contributed enormously to the growth of your company from basically, Ogbele was the marginal field that we've been concentrating on all these years. As the MD said, we have now moved to Umerelu. And what impresses me the most about Dr. Fatono is his uncommon sense of fiduciary responsibility. Because in those early days, we didn't have any formal corporate governance structures. But he led the company in such a way that now that we have all these structures in place, that when he handed over the baton to the current managing director, the company was solid in every direction, solid in terms of what had been achieved, solid in terms of the medium to long-term prospect, and also solid in terms of the facility to pass on such an exemplary company to competent hands. Now, fortunately for us, when Dr. Fatono finally had to retire as Aradel Managing Director, he, as I'm sure we all probably know, moved on to one of our most important affiliates, MD Western, as the Executive Vice Chairman. Suffice it to say for now that in MD Western, Dr. Fatono and the team have also continued in the tradition of doing what no one had done before. And we will all, sooner than later, be aware of exactly what has been achieved in ND Western. I'm sure that we will all be extremely gratified. Now, we have with us, actually, of the founding fathers, there are two of them, we still have two of them with us, Dr. Fatono and Dr. Imo Itsweli. We also have, still very much active in top management, Titi Omishori, who was one of the very earliest core team when Aradel was virtually nothing but a farm-in agreement. As you can all easily imagine, her institutional knowledge of your company is legendary. And as I said, she's still very much with us, and I would like us to also appreciate her. because at the end of the day, a company succeeds or fails based on the quality of the people that are driving it. So I just thought I'll just say those few words. The next item is question time. The company had requested that shareholders submit their questions to the company's address at number 15 Babatunde Jose Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, or by email to 29th AGM questions@aradel.com, no later than 1 week to the annual general meeting, so that the company's secretary could collate them. The questions received will be read out and answered, but of course, since shareholders have only one opportunity every year to gather together, and more importantly, to receive various reports of how the management is managing and prospering your company. If we'll be able to take a few more questions from those who, for one reason or the other, didn't take or have the opportunity to have submitted the questions beforehand. We'll be able to take perhaps 5 additional questions from those who are present today, but of course, we will also take the questions that had been submitted within the stipulated time, and our CEO would address all those questions. I think we'll start with those who submitted questions in time.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I can confirm that no questions were received online.
But it says you read the question. Okay. Yeah, please, madam with the nice hat. Madam.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other board members, the regulatory authorities, my fellow distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barrister Adetutu Shiyonbola. I'm the president of Highly Favored Shareholders Association. Mr. Chairman, I have some observations, comments, questions, and suggestions on Aradel Holdings PLC 2023 annual reports and accounts. With your kind permission, I will quickly run through them. On page 8, financial performance highlights. Revenue grew from 66.1 billion naira to 221.1 billion naira in the year under review. Gross profit grew from 42.3 billion naira to 147.9 billion naira in the year under review. Operating profit grew from 29.3 billion naira to 114.1 billion naira in the year under review. EBITDA grew from 41.2 billion naira to 129.3 billion naira in the year under review. Profit before tax grew from 33.3 billion naira to 112.2 billion naira in the year under review. Profit after tax grew from 15.1 billion naira to 53.7 billion naira in the year under review. Earnings per share grew from 69 naira 69 kobo to 247 naira 36 kobo in the year under review. Total assets grew from 473.4 billion naira to 923.4 billion naira in the year under review. Total equity grew from 326.8 billion naira. Going through all the Going through all the indices above, I observed an impressive performance in the year under review. I want to seize this opportunity to give kudos to the board and management for a job well done and implore them to do more. From page 40 to 43, the beautiful faces and the profile of the board of directors. Observe that we have a single lady in the board of 9 directors, which amounts to 11%. This is unacceptable on gender balancing. We have to improve on it going forward. On page 44 to 47, the beautiful faces and the profile of the executive management team. Observe that we have only 2 ladies in the management team of 10 members, which amount to 20%. This is also unacceptable on gender balancing. We have to improve on it going forward. On page 50, attendance at board meeting and board committee meetings is good but can be better. We need to improve on our attendance going forward. On page 53, item 12, club bar cases, fines and penalties. Observe that the group was fined the sum of $37,670 in the year under review because of a technical gas flare. We must guard against this going forward. On page 54, item 6, charitable contributions. The breakdown of the sum of 182 million naira spent on charity in the year under review was not detailed enough. We should give a comprehensive breakdown of the beneficiaries going forward. On page 55, item 9, directors' interest in shares. Observe that 5 directors out of 9 listed have our shares attached to their names in the year under review. I want to know why. On page 69, consolidated and separate statements of financial position. Permit me to limit myself to group position. Trade and other receivables under current assets went up from 31.5 billion naira to 53.5 billion naira in the year under review. What are the modalities in place to collect this debt from our customers to the barest minimum so that it will not end up as bad debt that will be written off? Trade and other payables under current liabilities also went up from 23.9 billion naira to 57.1 billion naira in the year under review. How do we intend to pay this debt to our creditors? Lastly, I observe that we have utilized this annual report judiciously to advertise all our products. This is highly commendable. Please keep it up. Thanks and God bless you richly for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman.
The Chairman, very distinguished fellow shareholders, other directors, regulators, and representatives of shareholders on the Statutory Audit Committee. Chairman, I'm not sure, though I'm tempted to also thank the auditors, notwithstanding the fact that they collect auditors' fee. Okay, their own thank you will not be in full, it will be partial, so they can take the other ones in fees. Mr. Chairman, the first speaker read his questions from an electronic device, which means she's probably much more compliant than I am. But since you gave me an annual account, I'm going to read mine from the annual account. And Chairman, let me also confess that one of the reasons why you probably didn't get any questions online before today may be the fact that for some of us, what you will find on your regulators or NASD's platform is the financial reports. You are not going to find the other component of the annual reports on the platform. And I'm hoping that now that you are hoping to transit, that is an area that you probably start off almost immediately to improve upon. Chairman, if you look to this corner, it said, energize for a brighter future. And once I read that, I went round this hall to find out where the battery of the energizer will be. and I didn't find it. But I did remember, with due respect, looking at and reading the reports of your report and the CEO's report. One of the things I find is your common interest in a game called boxing. And I took chairman on, and he reminded me for his box of boxing. And the interesting thing with boxing is that not only are you strong for you to be, to continually to be a champion, this level of resilience is also very high. Because whether we want it or not, now that people have seen what you can do with an industry or a section of the industry that people before now thought was only for the big boys, you should be ready for additional fights. But I'm not sure whether we should buy you guards. And gloves you already have, but whether we should buy you guards is what I'm not sure about. Mr. Chairman, my approach to this contribution today will be much more about tomorrow. Don't forget where I said you directed me to. And interestingly, the CEO talked about the share price having done over 400% in 1 year. A platform that NESD provided us, we want to thank them. But nowhere in this annual account did you state what your share prices are. So I'll be hoping that going forward, because even when you got to that point of talking about the share price, I looked at where you are standing on the DAX. You got taller. And I said, if this man could be as tall as this, talking about share price, and he's not here, probably we should give him a weight lift, and then he would probably do more. So next year, make sure that it's one of the things that you talk about across the accounts. Because interestingly, that is the way the external investor assesses the performance of the company. So if the company is said to have done well, it's only important that that is the first award that you should take. The second area that I'm also interested in, don't forget, I said my presentation will be about the future. I will want you to talk a little around renewable energy business. And the reason I say this, yes, you mentioned it, it's mentioned on page 16 in terms of the forward and the future. But there are too many, what is the right word? Persons who are doing renewable energy without anything to renew in the energy. You buy a solar panel, you'll be struggling between the panel and the battery, and after a while. And so, what is the challenge that this is likely to bring before us? Because I also know that Chairman, I'm allowing them to finish consultation. That's why I briefed a lot. Even the major players in the energy sector of our economy, the big boys have also started to look at renewable. Daystar, you are aware of what they are doing with Shell. Even Total, you're also aware of what they're doing. So what is the challenge that we're likely to face in this? And the reason I ask, or the reason I'm asking, is that this segment of that business is also capital intensive, and it also entails having to import so much from outside the country. Unfortunately, we are 200 or 300 million people. We don't produce battery, even for our cars. And I know that some of the lithium batteries are now in millions. So which also means that one major challenge that we may have is having to expose ourselves significantly when it comes to foreign currency in terms of importation. But because I'm a layman, I'll be wanting you to talk much more around that so that we can also be on the same page. I am also not sure as to what our future in terms of funding is. Because the bigger you get, I'm told that the size of food that you're likely to eat also get bigger. And in this instance, the amount of money that will also be required in terms of our funding will also get bigger. And if you look at page 72, you are going to be amazed that that itself is already indicating itself. So what are we likely to do differently in terms of our funding? realizing that only in 1 year we spent almost 50 billion in new assets. Again, talking about the future. And this, I will ask that you permit me to relate with the cost, the finance cost. Whether we want it or not, the finance cost is going up. In the current year, our finance cost was higher than the cost of staff in terms of value addition. So that itself raises some concern for me, but I'll be interested as to what we're going to do. This is not me being unmindful of you use money to find money. But if the money that you are using to find money gets bigger than what you use, the money that you find, then that should be a concern for me. Mr. Chairman and CEO, I want to thank you for your double letters. Because last year, like this year, you first find a statement from chairman and you find a statement from the CEO. And almost immediately you find a love letter. Chairman, I remember your cursive writing those days. And I'm told that that's one of the ways you get those beautiful women around you. So please continue. Please continue. But going forward, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that we again talk around what we are doing to make sure that the subsidiaries themselves don't go 1 year up in terms of profit and the following year down, looking at page 118 and 119. But much more important, Mr. Chairman, if in the year under review, gas and property, property may not be a major area of our business, but gas. And so what are we likely to do differently to make sure that gas is constantly in green and not in red in terms of the bottom line? Mr. Chairman, I will want to tell you the story of my Badon friend. And unfortunately, he went to university and did Yoruba. So when he hears shooting stars, you hear him called shooting stars. Up-shooting. So when I gave him this account, when he came to my place, Mr. Chairman, you know what he told me? He said the name of this company is Aradel. I said, what was Aradel? He said, one that don't come. I said, I said, so if you go to Ibadan and somebody sees your picture, I say, oh, this is the chairman of Aradel. Please answer him or how. But Mr. Chairman, if I see the size of unclaimed dividends, I will say ARA needs to do more for it today. Page 164 to 203. We now have a growing size of unclaimed dividend. By the way, Company Secretary, this information will not be correct. Because under the Nigerian law, except you are making an exemption for that, after 12 years, the dividend becomes status bar. What you have here is 16 years, which means 4 years have become status bar. What it will help you do, and I speak seriously to this, so we don't just come in here and then go home and then we approve dividends. After we go home after we have approved the dividends, and people don't collect those dividends. So you must work with the registrars to make sure, because the registrar itself is an extension of your office, Madam Company Secretary. So one of the assessments of you from me next year is how much money have we been able to pay in terms of unclaimed dividends. If it doesn't go down, no matter what you do in other places, there will be a minus for you from my end. So please, I'm serious. It's something, and it's even much more concerning for me because a number of the persons that you have on those lists were people that the chairman referred to as founding fathers. They may not have been directors, but they were the starting point in terms of support. So we should go, even if they are late, we should go after their families and say, sorry, we are not happy with all of this that we're saying. So that's a major assignment for you. But Mr. Chairman, I will ask that you permit me to go through page 146 to 153. And the reason that's important for me is that there is something that we again need to do right. And if we don't do them right, then we have a challenge going forward. And I will run through them very quickly. If you look at on page 146, I'm wondering where you have, and I think this refers to the company secretary, item 7. You don't re-elect shareholders representative on the audit committee. You elect them every year. So don't put the word re-elect. And if you then look at the explanatory notes attached to it, you even went further to list only the 3 representatives as the way they stand. That is, again, is not correct. That page should be blank because the best you probably will have before this account was printed is that they sent nomination, but they've not been elected. Okay? So please take note. If you then also go to, by the way, I also think that the notice of the meeting could have been bolder. Because if you look at the high table, I know that quite a number of directors are wearing Jigi Bola. But since some of us don't have directors' emolument to buy Jigi Bola of higher resolution, don't put us through additional stress. Let it be bolder. But if you look at item 4, but before item 4, okay, let me go to item 4. In ordinary special business, you said appoint officers of the company. Shareholders don't have that power. The best we can do is to direct our directors. Okay? So all where you have officers, you are breaching the law. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been close enough to lawyers, even those of them who don't go to court any longer, like the one who spoke before me. Everywhere you have officers, please put director, because we can only direct the directors to take facts and do X, Y, Z. We don't have a right to tell even the executive directors and the board. We can't take them out and single them and go and do this. No. If you also then look at item 8.1, which is where my major concern today is also around. Incentive schemes are good, but you're asking me to approve an incentive scheme that you haven't given me flesh to. I don't understand it. I don't know, other than being an incentive scheme, what does it entail? Or we should give you approval and then you go and bring out the details. But what I thought you should have done is to do the details and present the details for us to give you approval. I don't know, but I think it's something that you also need to explain to us. Mr. Chairman, that is the summary of what the notice of the meeting is reading. But for the future as well, which is the main essence of some of us investing. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow is much bigger than, and I'm happy that year in, year out, one of the things that Aradel, then Niger Delta, used to do is to tell us about the tomorrow. But very many times the tomorrow that you talk about, MD, is less than 7 months. So we're hoping that going forward, if our meetings are held earlier, we can get more than 7 months in terms of the tomorrow. But looking at page 39 to 47, and looking at the board and management mix, I think it's something that we need to constantly have our eyes on. Because very successful companies, like the chairman have alluded earlier, has to do around succession. A number of our big organizations, even the American companies those days, who tell you too big to fail, failed because they took their eyes off the ball when it comes to succession. So it's something that I think that we must take very seriously, and then also look around the mix of those successions, because if we don't, then it also becomes a challenge for us. The second one that I also think is a challenge for me, and I'm hoping that you will remove the burden before I leave here, has to do the number of independent directors. Unfortunately, when Mr. Oladele introduced himself virtually, he called himself independent. I said, fa. If you represent an organization, you can't be independent. You cannot be independent. So technically what we have in sense of independent director is just 1. And the law of the land says we should have a minimum of 3. And I thought that is one of the things that you will have brought in the year under review. Even if you don't have the full complement of 3, will have been standing at 2 rather than being at 1. Mr. Chairman, I also think that one major area that now that you are, there is going to be stock split, and then which means that the number of shareholders may also grow bigger, has to do with what quorum is all about. 25 shareholders cannot form a quorum. I know that you refer me to the number in terms of percentage. Less than 5 can form, or less than 10 can form that quorum in terms of percentage. So the number of quorum of shareholders need to be looked at going forward. Mr. Chairman, I also think that one of the ways that you are going to win more persons and lovers has to do around our disclosures. And I will be hoping that going forward, the disclosures will not just be around the group. Who are the directors who sit on both group and the subsidiaries? Those are disclosures that are important. Those are disclosures that are important. So please disclose to us, okay? And all of this will not take you more than 6 lines. Name the company, put the directors in front. It will 6 lines. It's also important that, having talked about trust, the community funds, that we also have better disclosures around them. And why that is important for me is that they are going to do you more PR than you can do. Okay? So let's also have disclosures, not only in terms of who the directors are, what is the amount that we have put aside for those trusts, and how much is that we spend year in, year out. That way you will also be getting more converts. Mr. Chairman, I did plead this some 4 or 5 years ago. It's good to come here and tell us who the pioneer directors are, who the pioneer shareholders are. Mr. Chairman, just like we have board of directors being a constant in the annual account, again, I'm not sure we'll take more than a quarter of a page to also constantly talk about people whose blood and sweat we are partly enjoying today. And you know why that is important for some of us? One of the things that a number of Nigerians have learned to do is to want to invest today and take all the profits and the benefits yesterday. And in the process, the company is dead on arrival. And if we had had Nigerians who have done this size of service to a nation, I think it's important that we constantly immortalize them. And one of the ways we can immortalize them is to have just a small sheet, a small part of this account, constantly reminding all of us, including those of you who are directors. Because even if they don't inspire you, you'll be amazed that your children, your relations may read these same accounts and they are inspired. And it's my prayer that we don't constantly pray for that God should help Nigeria or bless Nigeria. He has blessed us. What we probably should be asking is great leaders like the young men who started this company. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for your customary detailed and incisive comments. And we'll respond after a few more questions. Please.
Mr. Chairman, all protocol duly observed. My name is Okwonla Emmanuel Adewaju, Chairman, Noel Shareholder Association Akure. I want to thank the management of this company for the health, safety, and welfare of employees, for increased productivity, which give room for our celebration today. Secondly, major increase in general and admin expenses, ranging from auditor's fees to other expenses, as recorded on page 92. The third thing I want to say, that the annual report not well circulated before the meeting. On the fourth thing I want to also say is that on the contingent liability already incorporated in the books, how reliable is the director's opinion that the group will not suffer loss to the tune of 1.2 billion in 2003, which is a carryover expenses, carryover liability. In conclusion, referring to page 16 under the chief executive statement, with focused efforts of the management, I join in with the vision of the management to continue in the focused, to be focused on their vision, knowing fully well that a river that cut through the rocks, not by its power, but by persistence. Wishing the management, the board and management, all the best and the goodwill from the host community. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a female shareholder? A female shareholder? Chief, please. Yes, please. No. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope you don't mind that I sit down.
No, please, no, please. Remain seated, please.
Thank you, my good friend. My name is Sasoni Wosu. Like Nona said, I happen to be one of the first pioneer shareholders. And you know, I have not been to UGM in the last 5 years. It's just because of the attitude of our company secretary. She's not friendly with shareholders at all. She's just not friendly with shareholders. You can hear shareholders say yes. So a company secretary should serve the shareholders. You know the way you and Fumi coordinate at FCMB, which is very good. But this lady doesn't, she's not friendly with shareholders. That's why she's coming to the annual general meeting. I want us to look at page 68. If you go to page 68, you will see under trade and other receivables, it's actually on the high side. My perspective of that is that at the end of every year, a lot of products are being sold and increases receivables. But we need to know why. This money is big. If you can add it to what you have given to us, which I'm very grateful about. We are grateful about the dividend. We believe that more will come. Because that will help me a lot. You can see, Ladi, you can see my walking stick. It's very helpful. And we have share premium account there, which is about 22 billion naira on that same page. We do not want a situation where government will come and take the money. You have to do something about it. You recall that I was at the Senate and they were very dear about taking shareholders' money, but we don't want such a situation. So you have to do something. If you give us additional bonus, we'll be grateful to you, but do something about the huge amount of money on that account. I also want to ask, why are we borrowing when we have all this money? Why are we borrowing, paying expenses on borrowing? If you go down the line, you will see what it has cost us to pay for borrowing money. Why are we borrowing when we are being owed heavily? Why are we borrowing? I am very sorry, it's not the Sunny of the past. So I'm just going through this. But you know why they reversed the national anthem? Because it's very embracing, it brings us together as brothers and sisters. It doesn't discriminate. We don't like a board that discriminates, neither a management that discriminates. I think we have been together for a very long time. You have to do something about the mix on the board, you know. So there is need to bring your brothers from other regions into this board and make sure that they also benefit what is going on. You see, you cannot believe in one ethnic group because a failure of that ethnic group will be a failure to all members of the board and management. It is important that we mix the board, bring the other people into the board, and even management too. So we shouldn't be seen as an ethnic company. We must be seen as a national company, because this is purely a national company. It's very important that, and you are the only one who can do it. So we have to do our best to make sure that the reflection is there. I am very sorry, I have to choose my words because of the nature that I'm going through, which anybody can go through anytime. I am struggling to see the retained earning, shareholders' funds. Page. Page. Well, I'm sure the finance director will assess that and to also know what we are driving to. We don't have to leave too much money. If an armed robber attacks you, you call the government agency like police or army to help you out. But when it is the same police or army that is trying to steal your money, who do you call upon? So that's the more reason. Now the law says you can retain unclaimed dividend for 12 years. Suddenly, the National Assembly turned it to 15 months, and they are bothering the registrars, return the money, return the money. What have they done with the money? Nothing. It's just to ensure that there's enough money to steal. So, and we cannot be monkey they walk, bamboo they chop. We cannot continue to work for them. Therefore, we must do an exercise with whatever is done there to make the shareholders happier. I'm not saying we are not happy with your dividend, but happier is very important. I want to ask one good question. Where is this company domiciled? Is it in Delta? What part of Delta? Everywhere?
It's not in Delta.
Where is it?
Rivers. Rivers. Okay, can you carry on, please? And then he'll answer when the mic comes on.
Okay. I think I've made my point because my point,
I'll answer you.
Okay.
Yeah.
My point is that everybody must be carried along.
Well.
So as to create, provided they qualify, so as to create happiness among the family of Aradel. I want to thank you for the opportunity. Whatever is left after the meeting, I will see my good friend Ladi and we will discuss. Thank you.
Okay, I think having regard to the fact that we have many resolutions that have to do with the next big phase of your company, which is the listing, I would urge shareholders that we limit the number of questions to just one more questions, and then we'll have the responses, and then we'll go on to the other resolutions for today.
Engineer Noah is standing up. Engineer Noah in white.
The guy in white?
Yeah, that's Engineer Noah.
Okay. Kirukwe. Engineer Noah. Is that?
The chairman, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, distinguished
who is talking over there?
Thank you, sir.
You have the microphone, sir.
I have just one question, sir.
Okay.
I have just one question, sir. and that is on page 92. On page 92, item 7, bullet 2, says, Deloitte and Touche offered audit and assurance related to the internal control over financial reporting services in the year 2023. 2022, no audit services.
No, only.
Only. This has just come into law, and they wouldn't have given any report on it in 2022. So, my surprise is that this taking of the auditors, quite different from their 150 million auditors' fees, was not quantified. We don't know how much we paid for the ICOFA reporting. Thank you. How much is it we paid to the auditors for their intervention on the report on internal control, on internal financial reporting? Thank you very much, sir.
If your question was not taken, I apologize on behalf of chairman and everyone here. And but please, let's answer the ones that have been asked. And who knows, maybe in the course of answering them, we might touch on some others as well. So I crave your indulgence on that. And I'd like to thank everyone who have asked these questions on behalf of shareholders. I'm going to start with the first set of questions that were asked by Barrister Shinyobrola. Just for the sake of time, I would focus on questions. The feedback by way of comments that have been made, we take them. But those questions that require response, I will provide response to them. And it will be very factual. The first one is about the concern around diversity, gender diversity on our board and in our management team. And the response is that we're working on it. You will see that being reflected as the board membership is getting reflected. Actually, the board is looking at this. So it's work in progress. And it's not just on gender diversity alone, even on regional diversity as well. You would notice that the last appointment that was made to the board is that of a female. And it's not just a female, it's a female who is eminently qualified by our own track records. One of the best we have in our industry, and a very noble and proud indigene of Rivers State. So we're working on this, but we need to follow a process that makes sure that the change out is happening and is well justified. So thank you for that observation. The second issue that you raised has to do with board committee attendance, and board attendance is that you referenced on the page. If you actually look at that page, to the contrary, the data there does not support your observation. The attendance by the committees has been extremely high. Majority of directors are present in every single meeting, at board committee meetings and at board meetings. By way of what I would call statute, we have quarterly board meetings. If you look at the number of meetings that are held in the year, where we should have had 4 board committee meetings, at times we end up having as many as 8, 9, and these directors make themselves available for every one of that. If there is something I'm really, really grateful for as the CEO, is the commitment of the directors in attending these meetings and sacrificing everything, and some of them at short notice, just because of the way things have played out in the course of the year. You spoke about the penalty for flares. There is a bit of technical awareness to this. I mentioned in my comment that one of the legacies we have is that we eliminated routine flaring from our operations as far back as 2012. However, for our industry, you are allowed a technical flare, and it's for process safety. So technical flare is a flare that you must have for process safety. Unfortunately, the way our Petroleum Industry Act is enacted today places a penalty on a technical flare which you should not ordinarily pay for. So technical flare is not a negative. You must have it for process safety, and that is what translated into the penalty that you saw. So it's an unavoidable expense. It's part of our operational setup. Your point on providing a detailed listing of the charitable donation is well noted. We will do better than what we have provided in subsequent communication. You also spoke about the shareholding of directors. I think it's important to state that of the 9 directors that we have an independent director who by statute is expected to remain independent and not hold so much shares. So when you rule that out, we have 3 directors that are nominee directors representing their investing company, and that's in the person of Reverend Oladele, Mr. Gbenga Adetoro, and Mr. Thierry Georgia. So that plays out in not having significant shareholding. They are nominee directors representing those institutional directors who are guaranteed seats on the board. Our chairman, rightfully so, holds significant interest in the company, directly and indirectly, and other directors as well hold interest in the company as well. On the question you asked about the trade and other receivables, which was also asked by Prof, it's not an unusual thing. The number went up for 2 key reasons. Number one, the exchange rate translation exaggerated what those numbers are. But secondly, those are numbers that are consistent with the top line growth. So you are growing from 69 billion to 221 billion. The level of receivables also grow in that same dimension. And they are not bad debts. Some of them are timing related issues. So if you understand that, for example, our export crude, we receive payment so many periods of time after our transaction has happened. It's the timing of when the payment comes versus when the transaction happened. That's what's really constituting that. We are managing the business so well that we are not at risk in terms of exposure to receivables. In the same token, you also mentioned the incidence of payables going up. I actually don't think that should be a concern. That should actually be an advantage. And from a management point of view, what we're doing is creating an arbitrage between our creditor days and our debtor days, and it works well for us as a company. So we are not paying earlier than we should, even though we are paying as per records or as per contract, and we are making sure we are minimizing how much we are owed. That arbitrage in itself is part of what is helping us to create value in this business. Let me go on to the points raised by Prof. Thank you, Prof. Both yourself and Madam, in your questions, it's clear that you spent some considerable time pouring through our results. And your point that you made about availing more information, especially as we become listed, is well taken. We are aware of that requirement, we are aware of that need, and we are prepping ourselves up for that. You made some set of questions under the theme of energized for a brighter future. I think it's important for me to say that arising from our branding last year, we chose deliberately a byline for how we want to aspire going into the future. And we thought the tagline that fully expresses and communicates what our future aspiration is one of very strong energization, not just in terms of our resources, but in terms of our aspirations, and it's about the future. Breaking that down, it's more about how we are setting up ourselves to continue to be a key player in providing energy solutions. Today, those energy solutions are predominantly oil and gas. But we are not limiting ourselves to be oil and gas company. We are an energy company. And it's the reason why earlier on this year, we took our first step into the renewables, which is another one of the comments that you made. What we are saying is that you will continue to see more of the same growing in scale, but we are going to also deliberately be introducing some other verticals to our energy solution mix that continues to make us strong and resilient. And if you look at the 2023 performance, we see more of liquid extraction. We see more of refining. We see more of gas. And in January this year, we piloted the deployment of mini-grid solutions to 5 communities, serving over 1,000 households. It's part of how we are setting ourselves up to be energized for the future. You also spoke in terms of looking at that future, what our place is with respect to gas. What I would say to you is that the plan that we have shared as management to the board, which our board has approved, shows a significant step up in our liquid production over the course of the next 5 years in order to maximize how much of our resources we're extracting, recognizing that the time window that we have to make the most out of our oil is short. So we are aggressively growing the oil. It's the reason why we moved from about 4,000 in 2022 to 9,700 in 2023. It's the reason why, as I speak today, our year-to-date average is 13,250, and we continue to grow that up. However, we recognize that doing that allows us to maximize how we generate cash, how we generate revenue, so we can then use that to fund the other part of the energy solution spectrum that are critical. In that 5-year development plan, as much as we are growing the liquid, our growth and development of gas is actually growing more than double the rates at which our liquid is growing. So if I put it in context, our 5-year program says we will in 5 years be at about 30,000 barrels from our directly operated fields. Within that period, our gas production, which ended at about 27 million scf last year, will be at about 250 million scf. So there is significant focus on bringing to production the gas resources we have and ensuring that in the undesirable future where oil becomes less desirable, we would have successfully pivoted off from an oil-focused energy mix solution to gas and to renewables. So that's the plan that we're working on. You spoke about you used the analogy of the boxer trying to speak about resilience. I think I'd like to say that we are one of the most resilient companies in our sector. Today, we are the most integrated. And that integration in itself introduces a very strong element of resilience, meaning that we are not limited to just one income stream. We've taken that game a bit further, where that resilience is not just by having different revenue streams, it's also by ensuring that within each revenue stream, the operational setup and the logistics setup builds multiple redundancies and resiliencies that shields us from external shocks. So for context, our oil production today is not 100% that is exported. We sell our oil both to the export market and to the domestic market. When it comes to our gas, we sell both to export and to the domestic. When it comes to our refined products, we sell to both export and to domestic. And even in the way that they've been configured, the evacuation parts builds in a lot of redundancies. I'm happy to notice that, or to state that in the last curtailment report or curtailment exercise that took place with the regulator in Abuja, the regulator praised this company for being the only one that is producing as high as 97% of its TAR. No other company is able to do that. And the reason why we're able to do that is based on the resilience of our operational setup that allows us to continue to produce at the limit of our potential without being held back by constraints in evacuation challenges. So resilience is one of the key pillars on which we are built. We take note of your point about the share price. It was deliberate that we didn't mention it, because as at the time we went to press and publish this, whatever price we told you as at that time would have been outdated as at today. And the only one we could speak to the extent that the report was the report of the 2023 financial year, I referenced what the start share price was as at January 1, 2023, which was 187 naira 50 kobo, and as at the end of 2023, it was 1,089. That was what translated to the 480%. But by way of update, yesterday the company share price traded at 4,755 from 1,089 that it started for at the beginning of the year. So it was whatever information we captured at the time we went to press would have become updated as at now, and that's why we tried not to state that. But if it's of interest in the CEO report, I could then be mentioning that at the AGM. You spoke about the challenges of the renewables, and I think it's important for us to note that globally today, both across geographies and companies, there is a bit of change of posture with respect to renewables. The forecast by IEA and other energy agencies indicate very strongly that oil and gas will continue to be dominant in the energy mix of the world going forward. After the COP20, the various COP of the last 2-3 years, when fossil fuels was demonized, between then and now, Shell had scaled back its program for renewables. Same with Exxon, same with Total, same with Chevron. Within that period, the UK has issued over 100 licenses for prospecting for oil and gas in the North Sea. Within that same period, there is a massive drive towards Guyana, and it's by the same people who said oil is a taboo. Within that same period, Germany and many other companies have gone back to their coal plants. I think what we should stay focused on is how to maximize the value in time for the resources we have. And our commitment is that we will do that as long as the value can be harnessed. We will create enough revenue and cash such that when there is a pivot off to something else, we have the funds that allows us to be able to do that. You spoke about the challenges with respect to funding, and what I'd like to say, if you've looked at our report, is today we are a highly cash generating business, and the numbers speak for it. We closed last year with cash reserves in the neighborhood of about $200 million functional dollars equivalent. Part of it is what Chief Nwosu has also spoken about. We are not just keeping them, we have plans for them. The nature of this industry is about scaling up. And that scaling up takes place both in terms of what you scale up organically within the assets that you have, but also in terms of mergers and acquisitions. You need to keep your gunpowder dry for the opportunities that will present itself, and they are presenting themselves. The divestment of the majors in Nigeria today from onshore terrain is a massive opportunity, but it's an opportunity that you can play into the extent that you've got either the balance sheet or the cash resources to do that. So there are many of others that are coming. Today we are right thick and center in one of them, which is for USD based. And so when you look at that, at the rate rising up in terms of exchange rate, so that has contributed to it. Assets get more values on that. The point you made about more values on that. The point you made about unclaimed dividend is well noted. and the council offered earlier on about the statute bar on 12 years. We've taken note of it. We will work on it to make sure that both in terms of reducing the quantum of unclaimed dividends and also going aggressively looking for it out physically. In the event that there is anyone here who did not get it, it's possible that we don't have your current address. There are many people that the address that we have on record is an address that they used to have, and those things went to those. So if you didn't get anyone, please don't leave here without updating your current address with the registrars who are outside, so you don't miss out on this. Sanwosu, thank you very much. Apologies if our company secretary comes across as not being friendly. She's the most friendly person amongst all of us. I actually thought you were going to say that about me, but we take your point, and you will begin to see them. You will see improvement on that going forward. Okay. I've already spoken to the issue of the trade receivables when I was responding to what Prof said. So the same thing holds. You spoke about the share premium account. Your point is noted. We will see what we're going to do about it. I've addressed the question about why are we borrowing. I've addressed the question around the perceived lack of diversity in our board and in senior management. You asked for information about the shareholders' funds. It's actually on page 69. There is a direct line that speaks to that. I'm coming to the end. To Mr. Adesina, you referenced page 92, section 7.2, where you asked for details about how much the auditors were paid in 2022 for 2023 ICOFA, and the amount that was paid is 30 million naira, not dollars. Thank you. I think that sums up the questions that have been asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you.